budget process, we need to have a discussion on, there was a discussion of offering alternative zero levy versus other full service, no change in service. This capital planning, I don't know if there's time in the next meeting or so to have a separate discussion outside of this, of any changes we want in the budgeting process coming up.
What I was talking about is for 2020. Obviously, we have only 1 month until we get into ours. I think Trustee Amenta's initiative, she just doesn't, if it doesn't get in here with the 0% budgeting, I think she made a case last time to say, that's why I'm asking for clarification, because we have every right to ask, as a legislator, you know, for you to tell us what it would take to get down to a 0% budget. So I just don't want that it was submitted and it's not on the list, meaning it's just not going to happen, and that's why I want clarification from our administrator.
So one of the things that's challenging about that, and this is a frequent occurrence with the shore, it has before I was here and here, which is why we wanted the prioritization process, is that there's a clear intent from everyone on the board to want to do really good things, but you can't do everything at once. And with that, I also need to know that it is the board providing that collective direction by your action to me, and that there is agreement amongst you as a board in terms of how you're providing that direction.
So just to clarify, there is another way to have that happen, which is the way every other village has this happen outside of the prioritization process. We only had 5 minutes to talk about it. So usually, if it doesn't occur here, I just want to make it clear that we can make a motion at any time. Someone can second it. We can have discussion on what that means, what it entails, and we can vote on that for the upcoming budget cycle. I understand the concern that has been expressed, and I want to make sure that we're understanding if something falls off of here in the normal, you know, for a budget, it's not unheard of if the board agrees on a direct, like, yes, we'd like to see, you know, some options. And if as a board we want to do that, I don't know that it makes it into these big prioritization. That's a budget issue.
Well, that was my concern though, because it's not, I mean, if these are the priorities that our village manager is interpreting as this is what I've gotten from the board, then if one of us were to make a motion and say, when you come with a proposed budget, we'd like to either have options up and down or come with 0% levy increase. You know, that's not in this. So that's why I'm concerned that since there's nothing to do with the 2019 budget in here, that I presume we're going along with how we've done the budget. The 2018 and 2017 budgets, which is we are given a proposed budget at whatever, 1.5 to 1.75, 2% levy increase, and there are no options given to the village board for either reducing or increasing. So, because that's how it's worked in the past. So I mean, that I think puts us in a difficult position for those of us who are interested in keeping taxes contained. So that's why I bring it up, because it's not on here, and my understanding is that it's not on here, that the situation that you explained where someone makes a motion and we vote on it, that then the answer is no, that's not what we voted on here.
And that's just what I need for you.
Sorry, can I interject for just a second? Because I know as part of this process, there are, and concern just in the beginning too, just around things can change throughout the year, right? Things come up, additional motions might be made, and how does that fit within the items that were prioritized? I think that's a natural piece of what happens. At least you have something to compare it to. How does it compare to the other things that we felt were very important at the time, at this snapshot in time? And as far as what next steps would be a full vetted process of what does the actual hours look like? These are the proposed ones, what we think might happen. These are the dollar amounts in terms of budget that we think would be impacted. A full vetting process and a work plan would be then brought back for review and approval to move forward with that. So
Before we vote?
I'm sorry, after. It would be, this is the best and the most accurate information we have at this point in time. How would you prioritize this, above or below something? Recognizing that other things can be added and reviewed, and how does that fit based on what we felt the priority was at the time for the next year? Again, talking 2019. But as an outcome of this, it would be, let's take those items then, build a work plan, let's fully vet this and bring them back to the board for review.
So for instance, for human relations, I know there's, Trustee McKay has one that's remaining on here, maybe even Trustee Moore has, it remains, there was 2 or 3 that were done, but the one that I proposed was to draft a social justice, I can't remember the name of the ordinance, okay? It's on here, and that's okay. But if the Human Relations Commission comes back and says that that's what they want to do, that's hours, it's attorney hours, it's budget. If it's not on our top list, I'm saying yes to it. I mean, I'm just gonna, we'll put it on the agenda and we'll vote, I mean, we can discuss and vote, but I don't know, that's why I just want to be clear that we're not giving the wrong direction to our administration of, yes, this is our roadmap, now you're spend all this time coming together with this proposal, and yet we have some things that somehow got weeded out, and I can come to you, we could all probably, if we had worked together, come up with the biggest policy initiatives that are surrounding, but not the exact product that's going to be, so being less specific, but it's really hard to say, yes, this is the one thing we're going to do for human relations, and not the others. I would rather say I'm prioritizing, that we do something in human relations and it's delegated to a committee. Some of these you can, but some you can't. So that's where I'm struggling is, what does the end product mean once we vote?
I have still the same struggles, but this list, if you look at it, there's some big projects here. We have eliminated some big there's enough work here on this list, once we can cut it down for the staff to be busy all year long. There'll be lots of other activities. We really haven't addressed a lot of the committee work that they're doing. We've addressed mainly our initiatives that are putting our demands on staff. And I think if we can pick the ones we want them to focus on, like parking, these are big ones, transportation. It's like taking on another Wilson Drive. These will consume our time and the staff's time. So this is not all our work, but it's the bigger projects that we're going to take on for the year. That's how I do it.
So Trustee Maher, going on that, I'm comfortable with talking about some of the bigger ones and saying, yeah, that like among ourselves and saying, these are some of the things we feel are very priority. I think we've already kind of done that, but to go 1 and 2 in each of the categories is scaring me because I have 3 in one category and 2 in another, and the way this is whittling down and we're going to take a vote, it's like, where did zoning go? All of a sudden it didn't get 4 votes, and now we're just going to, you have to update the zoning, our code of ordinances at some point. It doesn't mean you have to do the whole thing, but let our staff have that authority to say, yes, we all recognize it's a priority, it's been recommended, and based on your schedule and your time commitment on, if you have to work on parking, then we're okay with that. We know you can't do everything, but we want you to know that we recognize that your opinion matters and your professional, that the code of ordinance is very important, it needs to be updated. And how you schedule that, we're not the administration, right? So
can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Can we go through the large, medium, small, just as they are today, to determine is there consensus among, maybe there are top 5 in large, and these are the ones like we feel very strongly about among the group. All 6 of you say yes, these 5, we can't even pick one. But if we had to start or sequence, how would that look? And then move to medium, and maybe it's, that one goes here. We all find consensus, because we were consensus building, and that was progress. If we identified some that all 7 of you said, yes, this needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed in 2019. And that's a good starting point. We might find a lot of yeses here. And not to say it's 1 or 2, but I think in my mind, when I said 1 or 2, it was, what are the items we feel consensus on with the group that we need to begin in 2019. And if there were limited resources and time, which there are, what order in which might we do that?
Yes, we can do that. I'm sure, everyone wants to build consensus today. But understanding the process as a legislator,
Yeah.
what that does is if we all say yes to parking, conditional use, resource management, which is, all of that falls on one planning director. And so without taking a week and letting the administration come back and start giving us input of, when you all had consensus, we just picked like these big projects and said, yes, 2019. I haven't gotten any feedback to make that, I don't know. So I need for us to build some consensus about some of the things and then decide when they, based on a partnership with the administration. I don't want to hand over what we think is important and then get back, well, you voted and here's now we're going to prioritize based on our resources. I want to work in tandem together.
I think that's a great idea.
Right?
I think that is a good idea. I'm just, when trying to address, and I apologize.
No, it's okay.
I would want to be supportive of what you were saying. But it becomes important for me to know where to start with that, is to get the initial sense of your priorities and where you're going to start looking first. I can't start with the full, I'm ready to dive in and try to figure some of those things out. But we need to have a starting point, and I want to have.
Can you come back to us though and say, I just want that back feedback of, thank you, I see you giving us feedback to say, here's what you think is important for 2019. But before we vote and can't change that, can we get your feedback to say, you know what, guys, thank you so much. We can get to this over a 3-year period. So if you had to pick over a 3-year period with these 4 initiatives, which one would you pick? Otherwise, you're picking the legislative agenda and we're not, because we don't have enough stuff and resources to do that. So then who, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're picking 4 priorities, say, and we'll get to that. I know maybe this won't happen, but there are some big ones, and I can foresee us, based on prior conversations of the board, that we're not going to be able to do them all. So anyways, that was my concern. And then I would like the opportunity, as Trustee Menta has said, if there were things that fell off, that maybe that's the last part of our prioritization of what, if there's something you feel really strongly about, I would like to hear, I'm sure management wants to hear from the board that we give warning that it fell off and we still want to kind of make sure we've discussed it, so.
Does that sound fair? Sorry.
We can go through the process.
Okay.
Just know if one committee has nothing and we have 4 initiatives that are too large in terms of staff, I would like that feedback before I vote.
Okay.
Okay.
I think that's fair, a fair way to proceed. That is actually a next step item too of committees. So what does committee work look like if they're not chosen? And it's not chosen, but prioritized below. Things aren't going away, they're all there. So let's work with the agenda here. So the process in which we'll go through today, I've allotted 15 minutes for the large initiatives. And just to explain what's in front of you, what I took from our last conversation on the 25th was all the items, if you look at the large, it's a spreadsheet in front of you, it says initiatives to be prioritized for 2019, large items. They're listed in order in which consensus was building from our June 25th meeting. So, and a few were reworded, just to say re-examine based on the conversation, so no few were adjusted. But I've highlighted in that, it looks kind of yellowish orange, it's orange on my spreadsheet. Those were those that fell 2 or more. 2 or more trustees identified them as we need to look at this as a priority for 2018. Anything in blue had majority consensus, 7 or more, or 7, not 7 or more, but 7. That yes, we all felt like this was a priority for 2019, something we need to address that year. So that's where we're starting from. I just want to move to my flip chart for just a second. I'm sorry if you can't see this. And my writing is really small just to fit it all in. But I kept the numbers. Each initiative is assigned a number. I kept that number from our last meeting the same. So if you did take notes and said number 7, which is the transportation, first on the list, just so you could compare notes. That's the same as what I have.
Is that really just, that's parking? I always get
Yep.
confused with.
We categorize it under transportation, yes. I think the number 8 is probably the one that you might have been looking for, hire a consultant to conduct a comprehensive traffic study. That also falls under transportation. So based on our last meeting, again, the reason that first one is highlighted in blue, we just reworded it to say re-examine versus repeal and replace, that we re-examine the village's overnight parking. So there was consensus building there around 7 of you.
And to specify, I don't want to have the wrong words in there. It's overnight and daytime, it's our permitting, it's our parking permits. I mean, is that
Re-examine
correct?
parking.
I just want to make sure it's parking, right? Okay.
And that's, you know, that's a great example of why, like, if that's something that you guys want us to start working on, then we're gonna come back and want to vet that through with you as a group in greater detail so that I can get a better definition. We'll do some education on it, but then some better definition in terms of what you as a board are